thinking, rationality, and the use of logic are not automatically developed at a maximum point. We aren't automatically very rational beings. Rationality, improving the quality of our thinking, and understanding how to use logic needs to be developed over time. We also don't understand how words are properly defined because of our intuitive learning process, where we learn words more based on an intuitive capacity, by the words being used reflecting something in reality that we can correspond to and understand the general meaning of the word. But we don't understand the definition or the etymology, the true meaning behind it, and how it was created to reflect something in reality. One such, or two such words, are belief and truth. Belief is not truth, despite how many people erroneously think and confuse the two. Recognizing the difference is crucial, yet most people just don't do it. We don't have the understanding of what a belief is and what a truth is because the way we learned about those words through other people using them and reflecting certain meaning that they were trying to convey confused them. Few people actually understand the root etymological definition of these two words and how they differentiate. So then people talk about things and they just want to say, well, that's opinion, or that's a belief, or that's, quote, my truth. There are things that are my truth. I like bananas and you don't. That's an individual truth. But the fact that there are bananas is a truth that if you want to deny, well, you're just a fool. You could call it anything else you want. Call it a gerbloopleblap. Well, then we'd call it a gerbloopleblap, and that would just be the reference to something in reality. It doesn't matter. The original arbitrary symbol that's created to reference something in reality doesn't matter, but once you imbue a meaning into the symbol, a word symbol, verbal symbol, then that meaning is established, and that's where etymology comes in, because that's the original true meaning of the word as it was designed to reference reality. And then this can change over time through convention. If you're interested in learning more about symbolism, there's a 10-part series. I could do more. It's called The Power of Consciousness, and it deals with word magic and symbolism and language and the impact it has on influencing and manipulating people. But I digress. We have two types of belief. We have speculative belief, which is a valid form of belief. That's what it originally means. Speculative belief is belief as what is not currently known to be true or false in reality. It's possible or probable, or it can be simply pure imagination. Speculative belief is the healthy, valid kind because we're not in attachment, loyalty, or trust to that belief. We are not bound to it. It doesn't constrict us into a false perception of reality that we think of belief as truth, which is the second kind of belief. That's the invalid kind. It's unhealthy. When you can't distinguish the difference between belief and truth, then you automatically associate beliefs as truth. So then you think things that are true but aren't true. It's just simply a belief you have. And this is the confusion in using these two words that's existed for so long. But if you go look at the etymology and you try to understand how these two things differ, then you can actually understand what it is, what a belief is, which is what I've done. And I've uncovered this, and I don't know if other people have, but here it is. This is what a belief is, and the two types. One is healthy because it helps you uncover things. The other one isn't healthy because it stops you from uncovering something that hasn't even been uncovered. You just think of it, or someone gives you the idea, and then you accept it as a reality, as a truth, but it isn't even demonstrable. You haven't verified it. So you have a belief as truth. This is where belief is a trust, loyalty, and faith in something being true and real. You're attached and bound to it by that loyalty, trust, and faith that it is real, despite not being demonstrable. It's not demonstrable, it's not verifiable. And there's a difference between things that you can verify yourselves and things that other people can verify in a scientific capacity to replicate experiments, because that's what truth is. That's in other work that I haven't put on Steam yet, but I would have to redo. Truth is repeatable, replicable, demonstrable, verifiable. Anyway, that's all I'll say about that. Just semantic specificity on demonstrability. There's things that we can demonstrate in our own first-hand experience, and there's things that are third-hand by other people who have the specific capacities, qualifications, and technology in order to revalidate something as part of what's in reality. Because things happen and they disappear. Actions happen and then they're not there. They're only in the moment. A lot of things happen that can't easily be re-verified. But it starts off as a potential, which is unreal. We envision it in the fantasy of our imagination. This is consciousness. This is our subjective multiverse, where we can envision many worlds inside of our mind. That's what happens when we dream. We just fabricate an alternate reality that through lucid dreaming, you could take control of your dream. But it's an inner reality. It's the inner world, the inner existence that isn't the outer existence. It's not the objective reality. It's your subjective reality that's made through the fantasy of your imagination. So we can do this with ideas and beliefs. So from that potential, the unreal, we can gather evidence, more information in reality, and it becomes more possible. And then it can become even more probable than simply possible or a potential. So beliefs are the unknown. This is the discovery and invention domain of the fantasy and imagination. We can imagine and fantasize about anything, but this is, even in reality, when we're trying to discover principles or laws or how something works, or invent something new, well, this is where it happens in the subjective multiverse of our consciousness, this imagination factory powered by the engine of consciousness, where we can discover and invent things that can potentially be reflected in reality. But it's not that they automatically are. You see, belief is not a de facto synonym or representation of what's in reality. Having a belief is just having a belief. But if you have knowledge and it's demonstrable, you have truth, it's not simply a belief, it's not simply someone's opinion. This is what the subjectivist postmodern world we live in, where people are so flippant and easily dismissing things as everyone has an equal valid viewpoint. Anything someone says is just as valid as what someone else says. Because everything's just an opinion. Everything's just a belief. So you can't say anything's true. You gotta say, oh, well, I believe this and this is my opinion. Well, don't you know anything? Can't you demonstrate anything? There is an actual objective reality, which is another problem with the subjectivity and postmodernism, and leads to solipsism and nihilism and moral relativism. Not an accurate moral relativism where things are relative on a degree, as I've done work on and presented. Talk about moral relativism where there is no morality. It's all whatever we make up subjectively. Anyways, this is a whole problem in people's ability to think, which is what I started this with, is that a lot of people don't know how to think. They don't learn about logic and improving their reasoning and rational skills. So in the belief, the unknown, from the potential and possible to the probable, eventually we can actually reach what's actual and real, true and existing. What's in existence, which is the objective universe, not simply our subjective multiverse and our consciousness and the fantasy imagination of what's unreal and potential. So there's a process of discovery and invention, and eventually we can verify if something is possible and probable and then actually created into existence, or verify if something already exists. Imagination is an automatic position. It's unreal by default. We envision an image from imagination constructed into a belief as speculation of it being possible or probable. Then we determine if it's indeed real, or still a belief, or an unreal imagination. From imagination, we can see possible aspects of reality, or manifest new realities, both objective that actually exists and subjective realities that are only in consciousness. So before a fork was ever created by anyone at any time, first the idea of a fork had to be created in consciousness, in our imagination. It didn't exist in reality. And then we took that possibility and increased the probability by shaping wood or something. Would maybe be the first most easily created fork would have been made out of wood, not metal, because that's more complex. You require more learning in order to develop more things so that you can get the ore and smelt it and shape it into a tool. But whittling down something or constructing it into a fork, what the point is that you have to first imagine it, and then you can actually create it. And that's the power we have as consciousnesses, as generators, manifestors, affectors, creators, and alterers into reality. That's the power of consciousness that we have. Truth is synonymous with reality or existence. Latin veritas, which is where the word veracity, veracious, verifiable, verify, etc., comes from truth. Truth comes from veritas. That's what veritas means. It means truth. So veritas, truth, is veracious. It has veracity. It is verifiable in reality. If you can't demonstrate it, if it's not replicable, if it's not repeatable, if it can't be shown, then why would anyone accept it as a truth? That's the whole point of truth. That's the meaning of the word truth. And I haven't gone into the full etymology of it, even in the post on what is truth, but this is the etymology. And when you understand what truth is, contrasting to belief, as I have in this infographic above, is what's actual and real is what's true and existing, and that's what's in existence. The objective universe. Like, these things are really, really, really simple to understand once you actually try to understand them. But people don't even understand this because they don't look into this. They're not interested in philosophy, and not interested in understanding things. They're not interested in looking into truth, into hard truths in reality that are uncomfortable to look into. This understanding, I was already into, a journey of learning and discovery for 8 years. And then I finally, was getting into the etymology, 7 years, 8 years, something like that. Then I finally was doing etymology research, and that expounded my understanding of words and language and symbolism, and I really understood so much more by getting into the trivium methodology. That's the grammar part. I had already developed logic quite well, and will always continue throughout my life to develop logic more. And I've been working on rhetoric and output, but the input, the grammar of understanding, even the words that we use, it's so crucial to understand this. So this is just one demonstration of the words belief and the words truth, and how important they are in understanding things. Beliefs are generated from the phantasmal imaginal realm in consciousness. Beliefs can be true, but they need to be proven true to be true. Otherwise, they're simply possibilities. And that means that you relegate them to the category of fantasy speculation, at least for the time being. And you can't automatically associate it as truth. Because when you associate a belief as truth, that's an invalid, unhealthy form of belief. Belief must be kept into An understanding of speculative until it's been demonstrated. That's the valid kind of belief. And it's true. Something that you think, something that you believe, an idea, can be true. But until it's demonstrated, you can't make the claim that it's true. Even if it is true, you can't make the claim that it's true, because that's what the word true and truth is for. It's to demonstrate actual, real, true existing things in the existing objective universe that can be demonstrated. And until it can be, until it's verifiable, until it's in reality and it's veracious, it's there, then it's not there. Because you can't verify. You can't use that word to reference it. This is the whole point of why, in the etymology, certain words are created to reference things in reality. They're not just, we'll just reference whatever we want with whatever symbol we want at any time we want. No, because no one would understand anything. That's why you have to have definition. Because it definites the infinite, the almost infinite array of variability, multiplicity, and diversity in existence. So belief is a trust, it's a faith and loyalty in something. In the negative sense. That you're bound to it. But if you're not bound to it, then you can have trust that it might be possible, trust that it might be probable, or, well, the probable you require more information, but the trust, faith, and the trust, faith, and loyalty can be in simply that you're going to pursue that idea, that belief, that concept in order to demonstrate it, in order to know whether it is true or not. So now you know it simply as a piece of information, but you don't know it as a truth. It's just information and idea, and you can share that idea as information to someone else, but it doesn't make it truth. So we can have we can have trust, faith, and loyalty in a person, in an idea that someone else gives us or that we create ourselves in our own imagination. But we can have trust, faith, and loyalty in someone else demonstrated by their actions that garner such trust, loyalty, and faith. And we believe in them, and we have faith in them, and we'll champion for them, and we'll even fight for them and fight alongside them and stand with them. But that needs to be garnered through interaction. Like, you don't just go, oh, I have complete trust, faith, and loyalty in you, this person that I just met 1 second ago. No, we require that demonstrability, that verifiability, that persistence of that person in reality, demonstrating through their actions, their behavior, that they are worthy of our belief, trust, faith, and loyalty in them. Do you see how it always requires? And that determines a level of truth towards our application of trust in them, that they won't harm us, because they've demonstrated that capacity of consciousness so far. So it garners a certain level of trust, and there's other people that we garner more trust, and other people have less trust. Other people have more loyalty, and other people have less loyalty. So we have faith, trust, and loyalty to an idea or a concept does not constitute it as a truth in reality or existence. We can be betrayed by misplacing trust, loyalty, faith, and belief in someone. So as I was talking about, it has to be demonstrated, repeatable, verifiable that we place our belief, trust, faith, and loyalty in them. But they can always break us. They can always break that trust, loyalty, faith, and belief we placed in them. That's why it's a certain degree, but it's based on who they are, their expressions of consciousness that have garnered that trust. But it can be broken, just like we can have trust, faith, loyalty, and belief as a speculation that can then be broken when our ideas or concepts and beliefs are demonstrated to be false, to be wrong. Or then we break the trust, loyalty, and faith in pursuing that thing because it's wrong. Why would you keep pursuing something that's wrong? It went from a potential and it stayed a potential. We verified it and it failed. Maybe there's another test to perform that can do it more accurately, or a change to the hypothesis. But if you can't, eventually, if you can't prove it, it's likely not something there. Or if you're basing it on something that is demonstrable, and it could potentially still be proven, like theoretical physics and things like this, they come up with theories based on other evidence, and then eventually 60 years later the technology gets developed where people saw that idea and concept. They had an initial belief, faith, loyalty, and trust in it in order to pursue that idea and concept, in order to verify it in existence. But what I'm saying is, eventually, if it's sound, people will pursue it. But if it's irrational, people aren't really going to pursue it. And at a certain point, you'll just have to give up. And this is what happened with Bertrand Russell, a philosopher who was so convinced he could prove something was possible that he spent years and years and years trying to prove it, but eventually gave up because it wasn't possible. And he had a paradox. I forget, the Russell paradox is what it is, but I don't remember what it was. I learned about this, 7 years ago. But the point is just to emphasize on belief and how these ideas and concepts can captivate us because of the trust, loyalty, and faith and belief we put in them. Beliefs are very powerful. We can get attached to beliefs because we don't want them to be wrong. And this is the problem in the world, is that what ends up happening is just, especially now with the subjectivity and postmodernism, is we just want to believe whatever we want to believe. We don't have an understanding of the difference between truth and falsity, and between truth and belief. There's so much confusion pervading that we just end up believing whatever we want to believe because we think in postmodernism and subjectivism and solipsism that we can simply believe whatever we want, and it's just as anyone else believing whatever they want, and we just refer to that as belief and opinion, and then there's no more truth. This is how confused and lost most of the population is everywhere. And belief is that, what I refer to in, I have a trinity of problems. The third one is the pleasure trap. And that's based on belief and believing whatever you want and putting pleasure above other things like morality and truth. And belief is the level 2 problem based on the level 1 problem, which is consciousness. So if you have a lack of ability of thinking, consciousness is, I'll just mention this, consciousness is, I refer to it as a double-edged sword with the capacity to create great evil or great good. That's the power of consciousness we have to create into reality. You can just look at human history to see the good and the evil that we've created. It comes from us. We create it. So that's why consciousness is the level 1 problem. That's why a lot of my work is on self-knowledge, so that we can understand how we function as in the psychological dimension as well as the biological dimension and aspects of the brain, and how thoughts and emotions process in order to affect us, and the biology of how things function that can validate some of the reasons and why things happen. Well, it's a correlation, not necessarily a causation, because there's a lot of things that we can. It's a feedback between the bio and the psychological, the bio and the psycho, biological and psychological. Things can happen in the environment that then stimulate our senses, which affects biologically. And then that goes into the psychological domain, which affects us psychologically, but also, as demonstrated in the placebo effect and anything, you can believe something and it affects you physiologically and biologically. It can change you. So that's the double way of how things affect. in terms of psychological and biological feedback. So our ability to think, learning how to learn and learning how to think, that's what the trivium methodology, which I haven't gotten explicitly into that in the work on Steemit. Eventually it'll come, but I'm still trying to deal with some more core things and get that more developed and ingrained in people, but I don't know. So the level one problem of consciousness is a consciousness that doesn't think correctly or know how to think correctly, which is why learning, caring for truth in order to understand the responsibility to learn and improve our understanding of ourselves, self-knowledge, and the world. That'll help us learn how to learn and learn how to think more effectively, better, properly, more optimally, etc. Because we're creating imaginary beliefs to try to explain things in reality, and we're inventing an answer to a question. We have a question, and that creates a gap in our comprehension, in our worldview, that affects our self-view. That makes us uncomfortable and insecure and anxiety. And that darkness, that void, that abyss, that hole in our comprehension, we want to plug it up, we want to fill it, so we invent answers much of the time, and this is where beliefs come in. We invent beliefs, and then we plug them into our worldview, and because our worldview is reality, truth, well, we mistakenly plug in beliefs to fill our understanding of the world, and we automatically associate what we invent in our minds as truth, as reality, when it isn't the case. It's not a belief, an idea is not a de facto truth, as I said earlier. So it's not only ourselves that can invent and accept our own beliefs, but we can propagate them to others, and other people can get infected with mind viruses of beliefs that they also begin to believe in. So a big problem is people want to believe things, and then they choose to believe it as, quote, truth, when it's not truth. And that's one of the big reasons why we're so confused in the world, and people keep projecting their beliefs as truths, especially in religions, and people don't have an accurate understanding of the difference between the two in order to categorize the information they receive, in order to express it to them, in order to filter it and understand it and ingrain it more into themselves in that distinction between truth and belief, and then propagate things accurately in their expression as, well, this is a truth because here's the demonstration, and here's a belief, and this is some of the information I have so far, but I can't verify it beyond certain, facts or certain things pieced together. You're trying to create a pattern and understanding and building upon certain other information in order to abstract more abstract information, concepts and ideas, And that's where the beliefs come in. Like I say, their beliefs can be healthy, but they can also be unhealthy when we falsely associate a belief with a truth. All right, well, that's about it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a nice day. Take care. Peace. 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 Peace.